Chihuan finally discovered something more exciting than him massaging her. Just thinking about those hands that once held a sword and pointed it at her, now pleasing her body in such a manner, made her whole body tingle with pleasure, utterly irresistible. To fulfill this small wish of hers, Chihuan had no choice but to resort to force, half coercing and half coaxing as she clung to him, swearing she wouldn't stop until her goal was achieved. Thus, after 3 full hours of her relentless pestering, the celestial being's attitude finally softened a little. He listed a whole bunch of inexplicable rules as conditions, the details of which could fill 10 sheets of paper. Of course, Chihuan wanted to refuse such an obviously unfavorable deal, but at this moment, she was already too invested. Forget about 10+ pages of rules. Even if Chengyu asked for the stars in the sky, she would agree to everything. At such a crucial moment, getting the person first was the priority. Sounds escaping through the window crack broke the surrounding silence. One side was as passionate as fire, the other as cold as ice. Chihuan gazed almost obsessively at his exquisitely pure face. Even at such a moment, he remained so aloof and unapproachable, as if the person performing such an act wasn't him at all. Her heart stirred, and she suddenly sat up, reaching out to caress his jade-like countenance. You. Chengyu supported her full weight. Chihuan let out a long sigh, wrapped her arms around his neck, and leaned in to kiss him. A faint, cool fragrance wafted through the room. Chengyu decisively turned his head, evading her approaching lips. His nostrils flared slightly with uneven breaths, and a faint flush crept up his neck to his earlobes. Chihuan persistently followed him, pinching his slender jaw with one hand, her voice exceptionally charming and lilting. Yulang, we've already reached this point. Why are you still feigning such purity? I really don't understand what you have to pretend about. Chengyu pushed her hand away, his starry eyes casting a cold, sidelong glance at her. You should fulfill your promise, Palace Master. All right. Chihuan, utterly satisfied, lay back into Chengyu's embrace. After all, a long-held desire had finally been appeased. Her mood was truly splendid now. You, feed me some wine first. A drink afterwards for longer pleasure. However, Chihuan waited for a long time, but Chengyu didn't stir. She awkwardly glanced at his frosty, unyielding face, finally reining herself in a bit. She got up, hugged him, and said, So what do you want? Chengyu didn't speak. He just pushed her away, got up, and walked to the copper basin connected to the stream, meticulously washing his hands. Chihuan stared intently at his slender, crystalline fingertips. One by one, they dipped into the gurgling, clear spring water. The water was so transparent that she could even see the crisscrossing tendons and bones beneath the thin skin, glowing with a cool white hue, ascetic and ethereal, truly beautiful beyond measure. Chihuan couldn't resist. She tiptoed forward barefoot, suddenly embraced his lean waist from behind, and clinging to him, she cooed, You, how can you be so beautiful? His hands were beautiful, his face was beautiful, and even his figure was so alluring. When would she finally be able to devour him to her heart's content? Chihuan was a little impatient, her heart itching with desire, but she had to temporarily restrain herself. This was a concession she made to better enjoy the beauty. After all, her white moonlight was unlike those common, vulgar beauties outside. Even just playing this kind of intimate, ambiguous game with him was far more stimulating than any previous dual cultivation. That dreamlike sense of pleasure was something no one else could ever provide. But then again, beauty lies in the bone, not just the skin. Who in the world could compare to even 1/10,000th of Lord Chengyu? Just as Chihuan was foolishly smiling and fantasizing, Chengyu had finished washing his hands. He meticulously dried the water droplets with a silk cloth, then turned and said, Palace Master, please move outside the partition and wait for 1 hour. The lingering blush on his face had quietly faded, and he had reverted to his previous unapproachable demeanor. Chihuan couldn't help but reach out again. You'll just sit nearby. I promise not to disturb you, okay? Chengyu turned his face away. If the Palace Master continues to be so untrustworthy. All right. Chihuan interrupted him unhappily, her small, palm-sized face lifting up. I can go out, but first, let me give you a kiss. She had tried to kiss him several times before, but he had always managed to fend her off. As a result, now, whenever she saw his thin lips, her mind would wander to inappropriate thoughts. She was practically dying of desire. Chengyu frowned slightly, neither agreeing nor disagreeing. Chihuan, for her part, took it as his tacit agreement and happily pouted her lips, leaning in. Due to a certain height difference between them, Chihuan struggled for a long time, but couldn't reach him, while he remained perfectly upright, showing no intention of cooperating. Chihuan narrowed her eyes and grunted. She simply resorted to her old trick, taking matters into her own hands. Leaping up like a monkey climbing a tree, she wrapped herself tightly around his slender waist, then cupped his handsome face and began gnawing, forcing him to reach out and hold the back of her head to control her. Chihuan, Chengyu, whose composure had just barely settled, felt his emotions stir once more. He stared deeply at the woman before him and reprimanded her in a low voice. "What's wrong?" Chihuan asked defiantly. "Who told you not to cooperate with me?" The pressure around Chengyu intensified. Their breaths, deep and shallow, intertwined. After a moment, he suddenly clasped the back of her head and began to press and grind his lips against hers, invading them. Like a sudden storm, intricate and ceaseless. Chihuan was dazed by his kiss. Even after the kiss, she felt unsatiated. It took her a long while to come to her senses, and she praised him with utmost sincerity. You truly are a natural genius when it comes to matters of passion." He had only kissed her twice in total, yet his kissing skills could rival an old hand like her. He really was gifted. "You may leave now." At this moment, Chengyu's lips were still a vivid rose red, adding a touch of vibrant color to his cool, aloof face. Chihuan gazed at him reluctantly. It took her a long, dawdling moment to get off him, and she said unwillingly, "So, I'm going now?" Chihuan had no choice but to retreat, taking hesitant steps and looking back every few paces. After dawdling for who knew how long, she finally disappeared beyond the doorway. However, the next moment, she suddenly poked her head back in, grinning mischievously, her gaze lightly sweeping over him. "Lord Chengyu, it seems you're not as pure and ascetic as you appear. If you can't resolve it yourself, remember to call me. I promise I have many tricks, and I'll teach you to be unable to stop." Scram! After teasing Chengyu, Chihuan was in a wonderful mood, humming a tune all the way to Wu Shi's right hall. There, she found the other hall masters gathered, and even Yi standing by, seemingly deep in discussion. "Oh my, what a special day it is today, everyone's here." Chihuan sauntered in, a peach blossom smile gracing her radiant face. She was completely refreshed, a stark contrast to her impatient demeanor from the morning. One might even say exceptionally warm and friendly. Chi Su, Wu Shixin, and Su Rufeng exchanged glances. They tentatively concluded that the palace lord was in excellent spirits, undoubtedly because Lord Chengyu had attended to her needs satisfactorily, and only after being thoroughly content had the palace lord come visiting Sister Wu. It seemed the incident at the library entrance had been safely smoothed over. "Greetings, palace lord." Chengyu was the first to step forward, a hint of surprise in his eyes. "My lord, why have you graced us with your presence?" Just as Chihuan was about to speak, Chi Su slowly walked over from behind. "Protector Qin is a bit tactless, isn't he? Look at our palace lord, beaming with triumph. She must have had a grand time playing with Lord Chengyu." Qinya's smile abruptly froze, his sharp gaze suddenly shooting towards Chi Su. Chi Su met his eyes without the slightest fear, but Chihuan tapped him on the forehead with a backhand. "You talk too much. Haven't been punished enough, have you? Go stand aside." Chi Su quickly clutched his head, then gave her a deeply wronged look before dejectedly retreating to the back. What brings you here?" Chihuan affectionately rubbed his cheek. However, as soon as she drew near, Qin vaguely sensed an intoxicating aura of languor, the pleasant scent after a recent lovemaking session, mixed with a touch of unwitting indolence, making her appear even more enchanting and captivating. Qin's thick eyebrows sharpened like swords, his hands unconsciously clenching into fists, tightening his grip. In the end, he dodged her without a word, didn't even greet her, just turned and strode out. Chihuan's right hand was left suspended in midair. She turned to look at his tall figure and let out a soft oomph. "Well, look at that, he's giving me attitude. This brat is truly getting out of hand. Palace lord, he's so disrespectful, and you don't even reprimand him. That's not fair." Silence. Chihuan impatiently snapped at Chi Su. "Let me tell you, be nicer to Yi from now on. Among my men, he's second only to Lord Chengyu. Understand?" Beside her, Su Rufeng muttered in a low voice, quite perplexed. "You already have Lord Chengyu, that celestial beauty. Why do you need a substitute?" Wu Shixin, next to her, nudged her with an elbow, covering her mouth and coughing. "Our palace lord commands 3,000 beauties. What business is it of yours?" Chihuan took in their interaction, walked to the main seat, and sat down, looking at them lazily. "Where's Yihuan? Haven't seen her for days." The Hehuan Palace had a total of 7 major halls. Besides Chihuan's main hall, and Wu Shi's and Qinya's left and right halls, the remaining were Chongshan Hall, managed by Chi Su, Fusho Hall, managed by Wu Shixin, Hanzhong Hall, managed by Su Rufeng, and Xuanqi Hall, managed by Yihuan. Xuanqi Hall specialized in gathering external intelligence. The cultivation world was ever-changing. Even the slightest disturbance would be reported to Xuanqi Hall, aiming for comprehensive knowledge and awareness. We were just discussing this matter. Wu Shi, who had been silent until now, stepped forward. Little Eensy has been missing for 5 full days, and no news has returned during this time. The situation is likely grim. No wonder you were all flustered when those old dogs attacked. So little Eensy went missing back then. Chihuan stroked her chin thoughtfully. Where was she last seen? Reportedly, at the Celestial Auction House in Dream City. Wu Shi paused, then added somewhat reluctantly, and also, the thing you want is there too. Chihuan gave her a bewildered look. What thing do I want? What else? The zither, of course. The Duyo zither, for your celestial beauty. On the way back to the library, Chihuan decided to personally make a trip to Dream City. Dream City was located in the core region of the cultivation world. That place specialized in nothing but indulgence, eating, drinking, entertainment, living a decadent life, and accommodating all sorts of people. Those who went to Dream City were either highly skilled in magic or rich. If they had neither, they were sure to end up on the streets, devoured until nothing but bones remained. Chihuan was definitely a regular at Dream City. Who could blame her, with her immense magical power and vast wealth? Which of the auction houses in Dream City didn't treat her with utmost respect, worshipping her like a god of wealth? Moreover, she herself owned many businesses and residences in Dream City. The dustless, immortal robe she bought for Lord Chengyu also came from an auction house in Dream City. Previously, strange occurrences had been frequent in Dream City. It would be better for her to personally go and oversee things for a while, to see which demons and monsters were causing trouble. Protector Qin, Lord Chengyu, please stop fighting. If you keep fighting like this, the palace lord will be back soon. Amidst a flurry of chattering shouts, Chihuan saw from a distance 2 figures sparring on the stone bridge, back and forth, clearly defined in black and white, giving no quarter. Frankly speaking, Ai's physique and appearance were already top tier. She hadn't seen a man more stunning than him in many years. Even when Chu Xiao was around, she always believed they were equally matched. Chu Xiao was famous for his exquisite, flawless face and had captivated her for a while, until Chengyu appeared before her. How could she describe the shock of first seeing Chengyu? It was like a philanderer who daily frequented brothels, thinking he had seen all the beauty in the world, suddenly catching a glimpse of the legendary Chang'e, who flew to the moon, only then realizing that truly transcendent immortals existed in the world. Her every movement, every frown and smile, was so breathtaking, making all others appear as common, withered flowers by comparison, surpassing all she had ever seen by countless folds. For Chihuan, Chengyu was precisely that. No one could compare to Chengyu. Even someone as handsome as Yi, when placed beside Chengyu, would inevitably be overshadowed. Just like now, they were clearly evenly matched, blades clashing, yet her eyes could only see that fleeting white figure. Due to his diminished cultivation, Chengyu was struggling greatly to cope, but because his swordsmanship was exceptionally brilliant, he didn't appear to be at a significant disadvantage in such an unequal fight. Chihuan, at this moment, was in no hurry to step in and save the day. Instead, she leisurely enjoyed Chengyu's graceful posture during the fight. It was truly strange. They say that superficial flair looks good but isn't practical, yet her white moonlight was both beautiful and fierce when he wielded his sword. Between lowered brows and turning gazes, he was both cold and ethereal. With the tip of his toe, he lightly landed on the lion's head at the bridge railing. His robes fluttering, standing with hands clasped behind his back, he was truly full of immortal charm. Qin Yi tightened his grip on his saber. His peripheral vision happened to catch sight of the person across the river, and his heart involuntarily swelled with joy. But the next moment, his joy completely froze. He saw clearly that his lord was gazing at someone else with her wholehearted eyes, her gaze even carrying a hint of infatuation, a touch of obsession. A nameless violent emotion swept through his entire body. Qin Yi could no longer restrain himself, gathering all his strength and charging at Chengyu in a desperate, all-or-nothing attack. Doesn't his lord like his appearance? He was determined to make his lord see this person's most pathetic state. If an immortal is trampled into the mud, are they still an immortal? Qin Ye's eyes were sinister, his strike as fast as lightning, catching even Chihuan by surprise. By the time she reacted, Chengyu had already coughed up a mouthful of blood and was slowly falling from a height. Chihuan quickly teleported to catch the beauty. She raised her eyes, glared at the young man in front, and sternly rebuked him. Qin Yi, you've gone too far. Hearing her call out his full name, Qin Ye's heart felt as if it was being twisted by a knife. He picked up his saber and began to strike at his own hand, saying, Your subordinate accepts the punishment. Chihuan suddenly swung her sleeve, knocking his saber away, and with furrowed brows, angrily spat out a single word, scram. After shouting, she ignored him, only wrapping her arms around Chengyu's waist and tenderly saying, "Ew, does it hurt? Let's go back to the sleeping chambers now. I'll heal you immediately." "No need." Chengyu glanced indifferently at her and Qingyi, but the light couldn't penetrate those crystal-clear eyes, as if a bottomless abyss, unfathomable to anyone, dangerous, mysterious, and profoundly enigmatic. But Chihuan didn't care about any of that. She only felt he looked extremely beautiful like this. She immediately wrapped her arms around his neck, licked the bloodstain from the corner of his lips, and whispered softly, "Ew, let's go bathe in the hot springs. Since you're injured, tonight I'll give you a massage." Chihuan's wish to massage Chengyu ultimately went unfulfilled. Chengyu had set up a barrier around the hot spring, as if guarding against a thief. Any slight rustle would not escape his notice. Chihuan was frustrated for a while, only able to wait eagerly outside, somewhat regretting her promise, and seriously considering breaking the agreement. After all, it wasn't as if she hadn't done similar things before. For her, the dignified palace mistress of Huan Palace, to lower herself for a man to such an extent was truly giving him plenty of face. If it were anyone else being so finicky with her, neither letting her touch nor look, she would have kicked them flying long ago. Why would she still have the patience to foolishly wait here? Whoosh! Just as someone was grumbling to herself, the surrounding barrier suddenly opened. A tall, slender figure slowly walked out from within, surrounded by lingering wisps of mist that hadn't yet dissipated. His clothes were perfectly fitted, his collar neat and tidy, meticulously arranged. He didn't look like he had just bathed at all. Chihuan rushed forward to meet him, hugging him and saying unhappily, "Why are you so tightly wrapped up? Are you afraid I'll eat you?" Chengyu didn't want to chatter with her, only walked towards the sleeping quarters on his own, saying calmly, "Palace mistress, it's time to sleep." "I'm not sleeping," Chihuan protested sternly. "A good night is too short. Why should we sleep? You must sleep before midnight." This is a rule the palace mistress personally agreed to, Chengyu emphasized, already accustomed to her mischievous behavior, without turning his head. In a blink, he was sitting on the edge of the bed. Chihuan followed closely, burrowing in his arms, hugging his neck, and saying tenderly, "Yu, how are your injuries?" Chengyu nodded slightly, looking down at the charming woman in his arms. "Palace mistress, rest assured, there's indeed no serious harm." The warm candlelight by the bed outlined his graceful silhouette, making his face appear less aloof than usual. Chihuan was momentarily entranced, and couldn't help but peck his thin lips, her voice soft and sweet. "Yu, let's chat for a bit." Chengyu's eyebrows twitched slightly. What does the palace mistress wish to chat about? "Yu, I love you so much," Chihuan sighed deeply. What? Are you brushing me off?" Means, I understand. You understand, and you still won't let me touch you?" Chengyu was silent for a moment, then changed the subject. "Is that Protector Qin today a confidant of the palace mistress?" "You mean I.e.?" "Of course he's my confidant." Chihuan narrowed her eyes at him. "And haven't you noticed he bears quite a resemblance to you?" Chengyu lowered his gaze, thoughtful. "Indeed. To tell you the truth, it's precisely because he has a face so similar to yours that I favor him so much," Chihuan admitted generously, without a hint of guilt. "So now you know how deeply I feel for you." Chengyu wondered how she could so righteously utter such immoral words. If that young man heard such remarks, he would probably gnash his teeth to pieces. "Have you never felt anything for him?" "Felt something, yes," Chihuan readily admitted. "Yi has been a man by my side for the longest. The little brother is both obedient and capable, so of course I felt something." Chengyu's brow furrowed almost imperceptibly. "Since you've already felt something, why are you still so insistent on me? Is that contradictory?" Chihuan looked at him, saying with complete innocence, "I like him, and I especially love you. Can't both of you stay by my side and become my men? Is that so difficult?" For the first time, Chengyu was left speechless by a rhetorical question. An inexplicable, nameless anger surged within him, making his dark eyes turn 3 shades colder. Does the palace mistress perhaps wish to embrace both left and right? "Can't I? I have never seen such a shameless person." "Shameless is shameless, then," Chihuan said without any psychological burden. "As long as I can win the beauty's heart and enjoy the blessings of having many lovers, what does shamelessness matter? Not only am I shameless, I'm also a scoundrel." Chengyu's face was now like cold ice, no longer wishing to speak with her. Chihuan, however, clung to him with a giggle, vowing solemnly, "Yu, rest assured, no matter how many men I have, or how many stand-ins I find, you will always be my white moonlight. I will always love and cherish you." Chengyu took a deep breath and simply closed his eyes, completely refusing to converse with her. Their paths diverged. They had nothing more to say. Yet, how could Chihuan easily let him go? Seeing him close his mouth, she teased him by talking about ideals. Yu, what are your dreams? Cultivation. Besides cultivation, exterminating demons. Exterminating demons? Isn't that just exterminating me? Besides that, becoming a god. You're too boring, aren't you? Do you know what my dreams are? I don't need to know. I insist on telling you, Chihuan then very honestly declared before he could speak. My first dream is to unite the immortal and demonic realms in my lifetime. As for my second dream, it's to toy with you however I please one day. Chengyu's long eyelashes trembled slightly. He opened his eyes and glanced sideways. Should I congratulate the palace mistress on finally getting her wish? Chihuan blinked at him, muttering aggrievedly. I haven't fully gotten my wish yet. You won't let me play, and you're so unwilling to help me vent some steam. Chengyu suddenly recalled the decadent scene in the study today, and her pitiful and alluring coercion. His finger bones twitched unconsciously, a faint blush appearing under his pale skin. Yu, when can we do it again? Next time, I don't want your hand, I want your... Shut up. Then will you agree to me? Sleep. Oh. Dream City. In a large mansion, servants moved in and out, bustling about. Red lanterns hung on both sides of the gate, and red silks were everywhere in the courtyard. A joyous scene. Ashi, a plump woman, swaying her waist, walked out of the mansion, her face full of smiles. Seeing Wuxi, she greeted her warmly as if she were a dear sister, without any reserve. You came without telling me. Your sudden arrival has made me quite neglectful. Wuxi also smiled. Aunt Li, you're too kind. I'm just here on behalf of the palace mistress, to take a look in advance. We've been sisters for many years. There's no need for such formalities. Aunt Li repeatedly agreed, taking her arm and walking into the mansion. Ashi, I wonder who our groom-to-be is. I've served the palace mistress for many years, but I've never seen her eagerly bestow a title upon any man. Wuxi sighed lightly. Aunt Li was the palace mistress's head housekeeper in Dream City, constantly offering and introducing young, handsome men to her. That Chu Xiaojun from back then was introduced to the palace mistress by Aunt Li. In recent years, the palace mistress rarely came to Dream City, and upon her arrival, she announced her intention to marry. As a witness to the palace mistress's romantic history, Aunt Li was naturally incredibly curious. You probably already guessed who it is. It's the leader of the righteous immortals, Lord Chengyu, who once defeated the palace mistress with a single move 10 years ago and then crippled half of her cultivation. Yet, he has been the ethereal white moonlight the palace mistress has been unable to forget ever since. Aunt Li had heard about this, but she didn't believe the palace mistress would turn over a new leaf for this white moonlight. Their palace mistress was naturally amorous. Even a banished immortal from heaven would probably bore her after a while. Moreover, there were so many handsome men in Dream City, each competing in beauty, each with their own merits. What did white moonlight matter? What did leader of righteous immortals matter? She simply didn't believe any man could truly tie down the palace mistress's heart. Ashi, come with me. Aunt Li suddenly whispered something mysterious to her, pulling her around to a riverbank. Unlike the festive atmosphere outside, here the breeze was gentle and willows swayed. 3 men, each with different charms, were sparring with each other, all heroic and handsome. From afar, it was truly a pleasure to behold. How about it? The men I prepared for the palace mistress this time aren't bad, are they? Wuxi glanced at her, saying playfully, they are good indeed. But in my opinion, you might as well have them all wear uniform white clothes. Uniform white clothes? Aunt Li was stunned, genuinely not understanding what she meant. How dull and ugly would that be? Like they're in mourning? Wuxi was immediately amused by her, spreading her hands and shrugging. No choice, our palace mistress just likes that style lately. Huanhuan Palace was already lively in the early morning. That day, Chengyu finished his breakfast as usual and was about to go to the scripture pavilion when he saw someone rush out from the inner chamber, shouting and running towards him. Yu, where are you? Chihuan hadn't even fully opened her eyes, only clad in a thin veil and a belly wrap, her clothes open as she began searching for him everywhere. Chengyu subconsciously hugged the rushing figure, his brows lightly furrowed. Can't you just put on your clothes properly? Chihuan swayed her head, rubbing against his chest, looking half asleep. Yu, I'm so sleepy. If you're sleepy, go back to sleep yourself. No, I can't sleep without you. As Chihuan spoke, she leaned close to his collarbone and sniffed hard, then closed her eyes contentedly, like a small animal, sticking out her tongue slightly, smacking her lips, and falling asleep in his arms. Perhaps it was because her small appearance was too cute. Chengyu impulsively brought his index finger close to her lower lip, seemingly wanting to tease her. Who knew? Before he even touched her, she took it into her mouth and began to suck on it with relish. A warm, soft sensation passed from his fingertip, stimulating all his senses and momentarily making his breath hitch. He pulled back his finger as if shocked by electricity, but was immediately grabbed by the neck by someone, who kissed him brazenly. "Oh, you're seducing me again this early in the morning." Her words were slurred and unclear, as if she wished to burrow into his lapels and taste him all over. Chengyu abruptly stepped back a few paces, leaning against her, breathing lightly, his face tinged with a faint blush. "You stop it. No way. Who told you to ignite a fire in me? I don't care. You have to be responsible for putting out my fire." "My lord." Just then, an ill-timed voice suddenly rang out. Chihuan's actions came to an abrupt halt. After a moment, she looked up impatiently. "Chenyi, are you looking for a beating? Can't you see I'm busy?" Chenyi subtly glanced at her face, which was as beautiful as peach and plum blossoms, then silently lowered his gaze, saying unhurriedly, "My lord, it was originally scheduled to depart for Dream City today. You should be leaving now." The sky was clear and bright, with not a cloud in sight for miles. A vibrant red palanquin flashed through the air, moving so fast that its silhouette was barely visible. Inside the palanquin, two people sat side by side. Chihuan, not one to behave, squeezed closer, pressing her entire body against Chengyu. "Yu, this trip to Dream City, I'm going to give you a big surprise." Chengyu, meanwhile, closed his eyes to rest, completely unmoved. Seeing this, Chihuan pursed her lips. She said in a gentle, coaxing tone, "Yu, talk to me." Ever since that night's long conversation with Chengyu, Chihuan had firmly adopted the strategy of frequently having heart-to-heart talks with her male god. Although she preferred Lord Chengyu's physical form, if she could achieve a spiritual resonance with Lord Chengyu, that would be equally satisfying, and it would prevent Yu from finding her vulgar and uncultured. "Why is the palace master suddenly going to Dream City?" Chengyu finally spoke. "I said it's a surprise for you." Chihuan grinned at him. "Yu, don't focus all your energy on cultivation and enlightenment anymore. What's wrong with being my capable assistant? I've also led the demonic alliance. In the demonic path, I can command 100 responses with one call, and my word is law. I'm no worse than your immortal alliance chief." Chihuan earnestly and tirelessly tried to persuade him, babbling on and on. "If you become my demonic empress, it could even promote unity between immortals and demons. Then both sides would stop fighting. We'd live in peace and love. What a wonderful thing. Killing two birds with one stone, there's no better deal than this." The more she spoke, the more outlandish it became. Chengyu frowned, too lazy to listen to her nonsense. He closed his eyes again, treating her as nothing more than a chirping parrot. "Yu, can you please stop ignoring me?" Chihuan protested, annoyed. "If you keep playing hard to get with me, I'll kiss you." This threat proved quite effective. Chengyu let out a soft sigh and turned his head to glance at her. "Palace Master, could you please be quiet for a moment?" "No," Chihuan yelled back. "Why don't you talk to me? Are you looking down on me? Why would I look down on you? You think I'm crude and unrefined, don't you? Someone as handsome, noble, aloof, and glamorous as you surely finds everyone else vulgar, right? You do have some self-awareness." "Chengyu." Chihuan gnashed her teeth, let out a growl, and pounced on him. The palanquin shook violently, nearly tipping over. The bearers outside exchanged glances. They understood each other without words. The palace master was indeed exceptionally fierce. What's going on in there? At the entrance of the Sky-tier auction house, Wuxi stared, wide-eyed and dumbfounded, at the constantly swaying palanquin. "Where's the palace master? Is she inside?" The palanquin bearers didn't dare to put the palanquin down. They all stood ramrod straight, staring ahead, and collectively shook their heads, indicating they knew nothing. "Axi, it seems our palace master is in high spirits." Li Gu, who had accompanied her to welcome the palanquin, instantly felt her expectations soar and even became a little impatient. She was determined to see what the man who had so utterly captivated the palace master looked like. Wuxi shot her a glare. She shooed away the whispering onlookers, then stepped forward and used spiritual energy to transmit her voice. "Palace master, what are you doing? We're already at the entrance of the auction house." The two inside, who had been sparring back and forth, suddenly stopped. "Palace master, stop messing around." Chengyu firmly restrained a certain person's claws, his ink-hued eyes calmly fixed on her. Chihuan let out a few resentful growls at him. It proved that, without using magic, she was no match for him at all. Although she had realized this long ago, when she was restrained by the other party with a single hand in less than 10 moves, Chihuan still grew furious. To think, she, the dignified palace master of Joyful Union Palace, couldn't subdue her own man without resorting to magic? Clearly, Chihuan herself had been exceptionally brilliant in her youth. Her self-created Jade Maiden cultivation method could be said to surpass all others. Even setting aside spiritual power, she was an unbeatable force. How was it that with him, she couldn't even last 10 moves? Chihuan deeply felt insulted. The humiliation of being defeated in a single move 10 years ago also resurfaced. She only wanted to swallow this man before her, skin and bones. Palace Master. Wu Shi's voice from outside rang out again, prompting a loud roar from a certain person. Got it. What are you rushing for? Chihuan huffily pushed him away. Then she pulled down the storage pouch from her waist, fumbled around inside for a long time, and finally pulled out an exquisite silver-threaded mask. Here, put this on. Chengyu glanced at it, but made no move for a long time. Chihuan simply took matters into her own hands, forcibly placing the mask on his face. She muttered under her breath. Don't you see how many people you attract? Not wearing a mask. Are you trying to take the opportunity to charm young girls? Oomph. My beautiful man should have the self-awareness that he's only for me to see. You'd better behave yourself and properly observe husbandly virtues otherwise. Before she could finish, Chengyu abruptly stood up and, wearing the cold silver-threaded mask, pushed open the palanquin door and walked out. Chihuan's remaining words were abruptly caught in her throat. She didn't forget to follow closely behind him, saying, Look how arrogant you are. You're really defying me. Outside the palanquin, Wu Shi, Li Gu, and others have been waiting for a long time. Suddenly, a gentle breeze swept past, and Li Gu's eyes widened. She saw the curtained door open, and a figure in white robes emerged from within. Tall and elegant as jade, cool and ethereal as the moon, he seemed like someone who had stepped out of an ancient painting. Even the vibrant red and somewhat gaudy palanquin, under his aura, began to shine brightly, as if it were a celestial carriage, incomparable to before. This aura was absolutely breathtaking. Li Gu clicked her tongue and shook her head. Unrivaled grace and splendor. Unrivaled grace and splendor. The palace master truly has excellent taste. Wu Shi gave her a look that spoke volumes. Have you even seen his face to call him unrivaled grace and splendor? Don't be so exaggerated. Li Gu, though rebuked, wasn't angry at all. She just wagged her index finger at Wu Shi meaningfully. Axie, this is where you don't understand. When we look at men, we can't be so shallow. You should learn more from the palace master in the future. Wu Shi, fine, she was a shallow one now. However, Li Gu's aesthetic taste had always been the most aligned with Chihuan's. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been entrusted with the task of choosing men. You wait for me. Chihuan quickly caught up from behind, imperiously looping her arm through his. From now on, you can't leave my side for half a step, understood? Palace Master, everything is ready. The solitary Serenity Zither will appear in the next auction. Wu Shi dutifully reported. Chihuan nodded in satisfaction. Any news on Xiao Yinzi? Not yet. Chihuan waved her hand understandingly. No rush. She'll appear when it's time for her to appear. Wu Shi hadn't quite grasped the meaning of that statement. Li Gu, however, had already eagerly stepped forward. Palace Master, your discerning eye is truly becoming sharper and sharper. Your subordinate is genuinely impressed. As she spoke, her peripheral vision couldn't help but dart toward Chengyu. No wonder Axie had previously suggested she dress all the men in uniform white. So that was the reason. But was it really just about clothes? Fortunately, she had eventually dismissed her 3 male concubines. After all, with a gem like him before her, how could the palace master still have the mind to deal with them? Chihuan immediately straightened her face. Where are your eyes wandering? Even mask can't stop you, huh? Li Gu hadn't expected the palace master's possessiveness to be so strong this time, so she quickly reined herself in a little. She said cheerfully, the palace master has acquired a beauty. Shouldn't your subordinate also be happy? She then lowered her voice slightly, her eyes glinting with ambiguous suggestion. Don't worry. Everything within the manor is arranged properly. Tonight, I guarantee your satisfaction. Only then did Chihuan smile contentedly. She entwined her fingers with Chengyu's and strode into the auction house. All right, let's buy the Zither first. In Dream City, there were only 3 major auction houses in total, Heaven, Earth, and Human. Among them, the Heaven auction house ranked first, occasionally unearthing a rare and wondrous item. For instance, this time's finale item was the solitary Serenity Guqin, hailed as the world's peerless ancient immortal Guqin. It was said to have once been the lifelong treasure of the Guqin sage, and for those who loved Gyukins, it was a priceless treasure that no amount of money could buy. Chihuan lazily leaned on the soft couch, her delicate fingers parting the gauze curtain. She only casually glanced at the bustling crowd downstairs before returning her gaze to the man sitting upright beside her, the corners of her peach blossom eyes unconsciously curving upwards. Lord Chengyu was indeed a person who paid extreme attention to his demeanor. No matter the occasion, he always sat ramrod straight, and when standing, he was as tall and straight as a green pine. Even when she often clung to him bonelessly, it did not affect his jade-like bearing in the slightest. Chihuan felt a mischievous stir in her heart again. She got off the couch, barefoot, and moved to his side, silently slipping into his arms. She gently wrapped her arms around his slender waist, tightly bound by a jade belt, and softly, sweetly promised, You, don't worry. Later, I will definitely bid for the solitary Serenity Guqin and give it to you as our wedding gift. Hearing this, Chengyu suddenly opened his eyes, his thin lips moving slightly. Wedding gift. His voice was extremely clear and deep, like a solitary moon in the night sky, drawing endless contemplation. Li Gu, who was guarding the door of the private room, sighed with admiration again. Even if Lord Chengyu's appearance was ordinary, just with his voice, who knows how many girls he would captivate. Such a clear and pure quality. If he were let out a low gasp in passion, what an intoxicating scene that would be. TSK, TSK. She even felt a little envious of the palace master's good fortune and love. Why are you so surprised? Chihuan looked up, her legs hanging down on either side of his waist, swinging back and forth rather naughtily. No harm in telling you. We'll get married and have our wedding night tonight. Originally, I didn't care about these troublesome formalities, but you are different. I will hold a grand wedding banquet to give you the proper title you deserve. From now on, you will be the legitimate consort of my joyful union palace, second only to one person, above 10,000 others. How about that? Chengyu's long brows furrowed tighter and tighter. After a long pause, he coldly uttered 8 words, going back on your word, utterly shameless. Chihuan had long anticipated his reaction. Grinning, she looked at him. My J darling is indeed my J darling. Even when scolding, you're so profound. Chengyu turned his face away, as if he no longer wished to look at her. But Chihuan pinched his chin, forcing him to meet her gaze. Don't be ungrateful. To become the legitimate consort of my joyful union palace is something countless men dream of. What's there for you to be unhappy about? If I didn't love you so much, do you think you get such a good deal? You'd have long become my cultivation vessel. Chengyu pried her hand open. His pale, ink-colored eyes seemed to glint with cold light, a trace of chill flowing within them. What kind of look is that? Chihuan pouted. If you don't believe me, go ask around. When have I, Chihuan, ever loved a man this much before? If you are truly as you say, then you should let go soon. Let go? Why? Hasn't the palace master heard? True love is letting go. Buh. Chihuan spat out a few pez and hugged him even tighter. What kind of bullshit theory is that? Love is clearly about obtaining, about possessing. Don't try to fool me with these crooked schemes. Anyway, tonight I'm going to love you, marry you, and possess you. Chengyu's breathing hitched slightly, his brow furrowed deeply. A moment later, he looked away and stopped speaking to her. Palace Master, the solitary Serenity Guqin is out. Outside. Wuxi waited for her palace master to finish her flirtatious mischief, then seized an opportunity to quickly interject, reminding her that it was time to get down to business. Chihuan reluctantly lifted her head from Chengyu's embrace, recovered Chengyu's face with a mask, then said, You may come in. Wuxi and Li Gu entered at her call. Downstairs, bidding had already begun. The last item for auction, the ancient solitary Serenity Guqin. Starting bid, 1,000 spirit stones plus 100 spirit beasts. Soon someone bid, 2,000 spirit stones, 100 spirit beasts. 2,500 spirit stones, 100 spirit beasts. 3,000 spirit stones, 100 spirit beasts. 5,000 spirit stones, 200 spirit beasts. As soon as this price was announced, for a long time, no one dared to follow suit. Actually, 5,000 spirit stones weren't that impressive. The main thing was the 200 spirit beasts, which weren't something one could easily produce. 10,000 spirit stones, 400 spirit beasts. Suddenly, a clear bid resonated throughout the hall again. The crowd immediately burst into an uproar, all looking upwards and exclaiming in surprise. So it's the palace master of Joyful Union Palace. No wonder she's so lavish with her spending. Chihuan glanced at Chengyu, not without a hint of smugness, and confidently instructed, Hey she, quickly go get the solitary Serenity Guqin and let my jade darling have a look. Wuxi wore an expression as if she wanted to speak, but held back. If you're going to bid higher, just bid higher. Why double the price like that? Truly a spendthrift palace master with too much money to burn. She ultimately suppressed the urge to complain and prepared to go out and retrieve the Guqin. Just then, a demonic arrow suddenly shot in from outside, heading straight for Chengyu. Palace master, be careful. Chihuan stood in front of Chengyu and actually caught the arrow shaft with one hand. Squinting her eyes, she looked beyond the curtain. Palace master, are you all right? Wuxi and Li Gu exclaimed in alarm and rushed to chase after the assailant outside. Come back, all of you. Chihuan playfully twirled the demonic arrow between her fingers with an ambiguous expression, then casually tossed it backward. Get the Guqin, and let's head home. Chihuan had many properties in Dream City. This mountain bright garden was her carefully chosen residence, backed by mountains and facing water. Though not as spiritually endowed and beautiful as the joyful Union Palace itself, it was still considered one of the top places in Dream City. Tonight, the estate was bustling with activity, with the sound of Swana horns everywhere. A circle of red lanterns adorned the lakeside, and maidservants went in and out carrying platters of dishes, each one looking joyful. After Chengyu was forced to complete the wedding rituals with a certain person, he was directly sent into the bridal chamber. Fortunately, the back courtyard was quiet, and with a barrier array set up, it wasn't so noisy anymore. Chengyu was currently meditating calmly. In fact, his spiritual power had recovered quite a bit recently. And taking advantage of those hard-won hours in the scripture pavilion, he had memorized the yin-yang array word for word. Whenever he had free time, he would close his eyes to meditate and diligently study. Although that demonic woman bothered him daily, he still managed to grasp some insights in a very short time. If he were truly given a month to recuperate, he thought he could resolve the crisis. But he never expected that Chihuan, that demoness, would be so impatient. The most crucial thing right now was that he absolutely must not let her break his Tao foundation, cultivated through years of ascetic practice. The heartless Tao is heartless towards all things. How could it be swayed by desire? Palace Master slowed down a bit. Suddenly, a flurry of footsteps came from outside, accompanied by soft, cooing complaints. Palace Master, on this night of great joy for you, why aren't you spending more time with everyone? What would I do spending time with you all? A single moment of a spring night is worth 1,000 pieces of gold. It's my jade darling who needs my company. The groom isn't going anywhere. We're not in a hurry. What do you mean, not in a hurry? I am in a hurry. I'm terribly impatient. You all better quickly get lost. All right. Look how impatient you are. Sisters, let's retreat. The palace master is practically seeing red with impatience. Huh? As the laughter faded, the barrier array outside the corridor eaves was roughly torn open, followed by a bang. The wooden door sadly swung askew, allowing the drunken woman to stagger in. She was seen with her eyes half closed, her hair bun slightly disheveled, her cheeks flushed rosy like morning clouds. Stumbling crookedly towards the wedding bed, she spread her arms and giggled foolishly at the exquisite jade-like figure. You, I'm here. Chengyu was prepared. He leaped aside. The scarlet wedding robes made his face look much livelier, but the next moment, the red robes scattered, revealing the cool, white clothes beneath. Above that was a face untouched by worldly desires. Red candles flickered in the distance. A beauty stood before him. Chihuan wasn't angry. She leaned lazily against the edge of the bed, carelessly tugging at her collar. What are you doing? Chengyu's eyes were extremely pale, and his lips, thin and translucent as cicada wings, parted slightly. Palace Master, I'm afraid I cannot comply with your wishes regarding tonight's matters. Chihuan looked at him and chuckled, her seductive eyes narrowed to slits. Cannot comply? My dear you, don't you remember how many times we've kissed and hugged? We've done everything that should be done, and things that shouldn't be done. Last time, you even personally. Enough. A faint blush finally appeared on Chengyu's face as he instinctively stopped her from uttering the obscenities about to spill from her lips. Not enough. This time, Chihuan didn't let him off. She abruptly stood up. Do you know how long I've endured, trying to be considerate of your feelings? I think about you every day. I'm practically going crazy. Can you be a little more cooperative? The more Chihuan spoke, the more aggrieved she became. Like a child who couldn't get candy, she began to act unreasonably towards him. Anyway, I don't care. Tonight, you'll comply whether you want to or not. Forcing it might even be more fun. Long time no see. I never thought the palace master would still be so greedy for wealth, lustful, and utterly debauched. Along with this disdainful curse, a phantom image shot down from the rooftop, instantly transforming into a captivating woman who gracefully landed, positioning herself between the two of them. Chihuan's steps paused. Then she put her hands on her hips and chuckled aloud. So it's Lianhua. It's been so many years. How come your aesthetic hasn't improved even a little bit? With such a huge red flower on your shoulder, do you think you're a courtesan queen? Lianhua, originally full of arrogance, had her entire face fall at this barrage of mockery. A dying person dares to be so arrogant. A dying person? Chihuan Tistsket. Lianhua, you don't actually think Xiao Yinzi couldn't escape your dilapidated cave dwelling, do you? The woman stiffened at her words. Capturing Yinhuan alive and auctioning off the Duyo Zither. These were all bait she had thrown out to lure Chihuan to Dream City. In fact, Ever since being driven out of the Huanla Palace, she had been plotting in the shadows, just waiting for the day to personally apprehend Chihuan, this heartless and faithless woman, to avenge Chengyu and redeem herself from past humiliation. But the Huanla Palace was heavily guarded. For years, she had tried countless methods, but had never found an opportune moment. She knew well that Chihuan was inherently cautious, and even more so after her cultivation was damaged, she was careful with every step. Therefore, she had remained dormant outside, daring not to act rashly, for fear of alerting the enemy prematurely. She waited until the confrontation between immortals and demons, when Chihuan shamelessly betrayed the demon alliance for her own selfish reasons. She felt that her chance had finally come, so she spared no effort to persuade other demon lords. Among them, Lu Zhongfan was the first to respond. After all, the Huanla Palace was a place of spiritual beauty and incredibly wealthy, rivaling an entire kingdom. If given a chance, who wouldn't want a share of the spoils? However, the Huanla Palace was impregnable. Even with magic tools specifically designed to break formations, it would be like hitting a rock with an egg for them. Therefore, the best method was to lure Chihuan out of the Huanla Palace and capture the king first to capture the bandits. Chihuan, stop being an alarmist. At this very moment, all your subordinates in your manor have been poisoned with the soul-shattering powder. If you surrender, out of our past acquaintance, I can still ensure you die with your body intact. Although she vaguely sensed something was amiss, Lianhua retorted without changing her expression. Chihuan's peach blossom eyes curved into a smile. She looked at Lianhua and shook her head repeatedly. Lianhua, you wouldn't be so naive as to think your petty tricks can fool my eyes, would you? Palace Master, Xiao Yinzi has returned. All of Lianhua's sect members have been apprehended and brought to justice. Just then, Wuxi's calm announcement came from outside the door. Lianhua's expression changed dramatically, her beautiful face almost losing its color. You, how could you? Her almond eyes widened, and she suddenly realized. She gritted her teeth and said, that demonic arrow was shot by Yinhuan, to warn you? Chihuan ignored her question. With her arms crossed, she slowly approached Lianhua. Lianhua, even though you've been trying to make trouble for me all these years, I've forgiven you time and again. Isn't that generous enough? But unfortunately, you always buzz around like a fly that won't go away. So I could only turn your own scheme against you, lure the snake out of its hole, and catch you all in one swoop. Do you still refuse to yield? Lianhua laughed heartily towards the sky, then suddenly spat fiercely at Chihuan. Pa, who wants your generosity? How much Chengyu loved you back then, yet you were fickle and abandoned him, ultimately causing young Master Chu to lose his youth and beauty, leave alone, and to this day, no one knows if he's alive or dead. You ruined young Master Chu's life, yet you spend every night feasting and celebrating, with men on both arms, completely devoid of sorrow or guilt. How cold-hearted and malicious can a woman like you be? Chihuan's eyebrows furrowed into a knot as she listened. Are you his mother or his wife, to be defending him so vehemently? I say, Lianhua, get your identity straight, will you? You're my sister, yet you're filled with righteous indignation for a man, and even turn against me as an enemy. Did you take the wrong medicine? Who's your sister? Lianhua retorted without thinking. Of course we're not sisters now. Chihuan yelled back without thinking as well, clearly quite furious, feeling utterly disappointed. Look at you, so pathetic. How many times have I said it? Men are like clothes, but sisters are like limbs. You. Halfway through her loud scolding, she abruptly stopped, as if remembering something. She quietly tilted her head to look at Chengyu, who was standing silently behind her, and grinned sheepishly. You. What I said about men doesn't include you. You are my darling, my precious white moonlight, definitely not to be compared with those common, vulgar people. It was all Lianhua, that irritating nuisance. She had been so enraged that she'd lost her head, forgetting Yu was still present. What if Yu misunderstood her because of this? Chihuan, young Master Chu was so deeply devoted to you, yet you are utterly heartless. Lianhua, still showing no restraint, continued to point and curse at her, then turned her head. Immortal venerable Chengyu, have you seen her true colors now? If you believe this person's honeyed words, you will undoubtedly end up being cast aside once she tires of you. Chihuan could not tolerate these words. How dare she try to sow discord between her and Yulang. She definitely needed to teach her a profound lesson. So Chihuan stopped being polite, intending to make a clean break and personally deal with this menace. However, at this very moment, a sword formed from spiritual power suddenly materialized in Chengyu's hand. Unlike its previous weakened state in the bedchamber, the entire longsword now emitted a dazzling radiance. In an instant, it radiated a piercing cold, shot straight up into the clouds, and pierced through the wind. Chihuan watched as the person's robes billowed like clouds. A chilling light gleamed in his eyes, and a crimson demigod mark flashed into existence, echoing the bright moon in the night sky. In that instant, he seemed to have once again become the inviolable moonlight of years past, noble, aloof, looking down upon the nine heavens. Lord Chengyu. Chihuan felt an inexplicable panic, acutely sensing that something was wrong. Just as she was about to leap to pursue him, she was entangled by Lianhua. You're not going anywhere. Chihuan had no time to deal with her. She turned her head and yelled outside. Stop him, quickly! After speaking, a coil of hemp rope appeared in her hand, and she lassoed Lianhua with it at top speed. Where is he? Chihuan frantically kicked the door open and rushed out, only to see Wuxi and Li Gong flying towards her, then directly kneeling on the ground. Palace Master, Lord Chengyu. What happened to him? Speak quickly. Li Gong's face was terrified, and she dared not speak. Wuxi's dark brows were tightly furrowed, and she braced herself to say, Ahuan, calm down first. Lord Chengyu. He tore open the void and left. Escaping through the void was an ancient magic art. Its effect was equivalent to instantly transporting to another place, leaving no traces whatsoever, completely concealed, making it impossible for anyone to track. But at the same time, tearing open the void also required extremely powerful spiritual energy, and one needed to be proficient in the formations of heaven and earth, accurately judging the most mysterious and weakest point in the surroundings to have any chance of success with one attempt. So, how could her frail, sickly white moonlight, who coughed blood at the slightest provocation, have been able to tear open the void in such a short amount of time? Chihuan took several deep breaths, rubbed her forehead, and scratched her head. She was incredibly agitated right now. The beauty she was about to have in her grasp had actually flown away right under her nose. Who could she even complain to? Chengyu, you forced my hand. Go to the immortal sect and drag out that old man Fui for this palace master. Announce throughout the lands that in 10 days, he will face a Ling Qi execution at the palace gate. When Qin Yi led his demon soldiers, roaring, to take Fu Yi, all the Xianmen cultivators were astonished. Fu Yi was merely an ordinary alchemist in the sect, and a white-haired old man on the verge of death. Why would the joyous palace target him without reason? For a while, no one could figure out the reason, only assuming that Chihuan was capricious and incomprehensible. But how could they have known that Fu Yi was none other than Venerable Chengyu's benefactor and master before his enlightenment, and had once saved the Venerable's life? Chengyu treated Fu Yi like his own father, but this was not apparent on the surface. So few people knew of this past. However, Chihuan's intelligence network was not maintained for nothing. Long ago, they had thoroughly investigated all of Chengyu's past, and the relationship between Fu Yi and Chengyu naturally did not escape her notice. Thinking back, in order to uncover this crucial piece of intelligence, and also to catch another glimpse of the beauty she yearned for day and night, Chihuan had personally gone undercover, spending 2 months as a water-carrying maid in the Xianmen. Alas, the immortal Venerable resided on the highest peak year-round. Even if she, a mere maid, managed to climb up, she couldn't see him in person. She often only caught fleeting glimpses of his elusive silhouette behind the clouds and mist, and even then, her stealthy movements were noticed, almost exposing her disguise. At that time, she absolutely dared not confront Chengyu directly. Her meager disguise skills might fool others, but she would surely be exposed if she faced Chengyu. Thus, she remained on edge for a long while, until finally, in the 2nd month, she caught sight of Chengyu himself. That day, he was conversing with Fu Yi, personally addressing him as Master. Chihuan stealthily hid behind the door, both surprised by their relationship and captivated by Chengyu's celestial beauty. While she was hiding in the corner, admiring him, a silver light streaked past her head, directly severing her hair tie. Immediately after, a pleasant yet cold voice came from inside. Come out. At that moment, how could Chihuan dare to come out? She scrambled to escape, but before she had taken a few steps, she was immediately restrained by a powerful force, instantly frozen and unable to move. Just at this critical moment, Fu Yi waved his hand and smiled. Enough, Chengyu. It must be another woman infatuated with you. Let her go. Master, this woman is from the demon race. Chengyu's words were faint yet certain. Chihuan was almost scared to death. She hadn't revealed any flaws. So how did he know she was from the demon race? Fu Yi was silent for a moment, then spoke again. She has been diligent in carrying water during this time. Why not expel her from the Xianmen and let her go her way? Yes. Recalling this past event, Chihuan was filled with a myriad of emotions. That old man Fu Yi was truly a living bodhisattva, and in a way, even her benefactor. That's why she hadn't touched the old man before. But now, he was probably the only person Chengyu cared about. If Chengyu hadn't gone too far this time, she would absolutely not have used the old man as bait. Of course, she certainly couldn't harm the old man's life. After all, such ungrateful behavior wasn't her style. But the facade had to be perfectly maintained, the commotion grand, ensuring it became town gossip, known to all. She didn't believe Chengyu could be so heartless as to disregard the old man's life and death. Asu, you go tell the palace master. Why me? Little Inzi, strictly speaking, this matter falls under your purview. Asu, you're so disloyal. Who doesn't know the palace master is furious right now? Don't even think about tricking me. Suddenly, there was a rustling and pushing sound from outside the hall. Chihuan unhappily opened her eyes and called out directly. Both of you, get in here. Chisu and Inhuan were startled for a moment, exchanged glances, then drooped their heads miserably and rolled in. Your subordinates pay respects to the palace master. The two obediently knelt down and performed a deep bow, huddling together with shrugging shoulders, neither daring to speak first. Chihuan picked up a wine pot nearby, tilted her head back, and took a deep swig. Speak. What good news has transpired now? Inhuan secretly nudged Chi Su with her elbow, but the latter only silently shifted a little to the side, completely ignoring her hint. Spit it out, stop dilly-dallying. Chihuan grew impatient, casually tossed the wine pot aside, and cast a lazy, sidelong glance at them. Inhuan instantly straightened her back, fiercely made a note in her small book against Chi Su, and said with a fawning smile, Reporting, boss, I have searched all cities north and south, and indeed found no trace of venerable Chengyu. Before she could finish speaking, with a clack, Chihuan slammed the table and stood up. My joyous palace has eyes and ears all over the world. How can we not even find a living person? Useless things, an embarrassment. Facing her boss's scathing rebuke, Inhuan nodded repeatedly, her attitude of admitting fault extremely sincere. Yes, boss, everything you say is correct, but I truly have no other way. Oh, boss, Asu also has something to report to you. Inhuan deftly shifted the blame. Chisu rolled her eyes at her and reluctantly said, Palace Master, Sister Wu asked me to tell you that Lianhua has run away again. What? Chihuan's eyes widened. That Wu Shi? How outrageous. Go summon her to see me immediately. Yes. The two hastily rose and withdrew. Wait. Chihuan spoke again before they could leave. She let out a cold snort to herself and slowly sat down. Never mind, never mind. This palace master is not in the mood to deal with such matters now. Everything can wait until Chengyu is found. Yes. The news at the palace was to execute Fu Yi by slow, slicing spread like wildfire, shocking many upright noble sects, who one after another denounced her in writing and condemned the demoness with harsh words. However, Chihuan seemed utterly unconcerned. The fiercer these people cursed, the better. She was only afraid Chengyu wouldn't hear the rumors. In these past few days, she had reflected on herself and couldn't even begin to express her regret. If she had known, she should have first eaten Chengyu clean, taken full advantage of him, before anything else. Now, her money was gone, her beauty had fled, and she still had to find a way to get him back. Wasn't this a case of losing both the wife and the soldiers? It was truly exasperating. Chihuan slumped languidly in her throne-like couch. Below was a specially constructed high platform, and not far away stood the gallows where Fu Yi was bound. Drums thundered all around, and armored soldiers stood guard sternly. The atmosphere was quite fitting. Today was the final moment of Fu Yi's execution. Previously, even little Inzi's intelligence network had failed to discover Chengyu's whereabouts, showing that even in distress, the venerable's stealth and concealment techniques remained impenetrable. If he still didn't appear today, she feared this cooked duck would truly and completely fly away. The moment Chihuan thought of this, her mind became a tangled mess. Her heart felt like it was being twisted by a knife, aching unbearably. She couldn't help but sigh heavily, losing all motivation for anything. Palace Master, no need to worry. It's not the last moment yet. Chenyu stood upright beside Chihuan. Seeing her frowning, pulling long faces, and sighing deeply, he finally offered a word of comfort. Chihuan exhaled again, took Chenya's hand, and said earnestly, Ai, you must remember, once you get your hands on something good, you must enjoy it early. Don't be like your master, me, who played around and then lost control, ending up with an empty bamboo basket. Report. While Chihuan was still rambling, a soldier ran quickly from below the platform. Reporting, Master, it is already 3/4 past noon. Chihuan was startled, then frowned. So soon. The young soldier glanced at Chenyu beside her and hesitantly asked, Master, may I ask, should the execution proceed? Chihuan's entire face crumpled, her eyes glistening as if filled with tears. Chengyu, seeing this, waved his hand, and the young soldier quietly withdrew. "Master!" Chengyu called out softly. Chihuan let out a wail, crying loudly, I have angina. Lord Chengyu still hasn't come. My beauty boo. Chengyu was about to say something when he saw his master, who had just been wailing, suddenly spring to her feet, tilt her head back, and sniff vigorously. Then she burst into laughter and, without another word, transformed directly into a large white tiger, instantly leaping into the air. Ow! With a roar of a hungry tiger, the agile figure soared over the palace walls, vanishing into the horizon in the blink of an eye. "Master!" The white tiger paid no mind to the chaotic execution ground, only darted wildly, following that alluring cold scent, haphazardly rushing this way and that, finally leaping into a labyrinthine alley. The great white tiger twitched its nose, crouched low like a hunter, its furry ears perked high. It stealthily scraped its claws on the ground, and the next moment, with a boom, the tiger swiftly knocked down the brick wall directly in front of it, then transformed into human form and pounced towards the rapidly retreating immortal figure. Inside the alley, bricks and tiles lay shattered, and dust flew everywhere. Chihuan firmly grasped his ice jade-like fingers, almost savagely pinning him against the wall, while her other hand squeezed his slender jaw. She glared at him, sneering viciously. "Go on, try to run now.